Hello guys, so welcome to day 18 of your Python programming tutorial. So today we are going to be doing something more interesting than what we've been doing in the past. It's going to be about object-oriented programming. Alright, so what exactly do we want you guys to know about object-oriented programming? So Python is actually an object-oriented programming, and basically the way Python operates, it operates such that almost everything in Python are basically objects. You know, there are sometimes where you come across something like a list. A list is an object with so many different properties, attributes, methods, and the likes. So now in this tutorial, we're going to be teaching you how you can build your own classes, which is basically a form of objects. Build your own classes, give your own classes its own attributes, its own properties, and the likes. All right. So one thing I want you guys to know about classes is that classes are also objects. So they are basically objects. So you just want to build your own objects. So as is what we call it object-oriented programming. Basically trying to build your programs in form of objects. All right. So a class is represented this way as CLAS CLASS. All right, so the next that follows after it is the class name. Right, so let's just say I want to build a class. I want to build. Let's say Um, I want to build a class called human. All right, so I want to build a class called. Um, okay, let's say I want to build a class called. Let's say human. Right, so we have we have what we call the class, then we have the class name, and then what we have as the arguments are basically um, what we have here could be the arguments to the classes. Do you get it? So, sometimes people do not want to specify it, sometimes people do specify it, and the likes. So you can go ahead to specify else this way. So let's just assume it's just going to be having, okay, let's just move on with the programming. Then the next thing that you have in your class is what we call methods. Now methods are basically functions. They are basically functions in a class. So let's say you have let's say, so if you see something like this, def um, um, get name, right? Um, so what makes this is actually a function actually, but what makes this different from the usual function, why we call it a method, is because it always have its first argument called self. Now self basically means self basically means the name of the class, which is human. Do you get it? Now, but before I move ahead to talking about constructors, to talking about methods, I want to talk about what we call the constructor. Now, so the constructor is basically a function that gets automatically executed whenever you call it. So it's a function that gets automatically executed whenever you call it, whenever you call the class itself. So when I call class human, this guy gets it gets executed. So for example, um, let's say print, okay, I am the constructor, right? Okay, yeah. So the same thing for get name. Let's just say um, print, okay, name. Let's let it ask for a name. Inputs, str inputs. What is your name? Right. So you have that. So it's gonna, okay. I didn't. That should be a final clause, and then it's gonna say, okay, let's just say it's gonna save my name to a particular dictionary. So dict name is that. So we can say dict name name is equals to name. All right. So all right. So now I mentioned something about, but before I move ahead, I mentioned something about passing your arguments. So sometimes people write their classes this way, such that they pass in the arguments straight down inside the init function. So instead of you putting your arguments here, you might just, this is the modern way of writing it in Python. So you just have it this way, then you pass in your arguments in the init function. So such that you, whatever, let's just say human basically does addition. So so C, let's just say C is equals to 0, or let's say C is always equals to A plus B. Then print the sum of A and B is C. Alright, so now let's try and see how do we actually run this guy. So to run this guy, you do it this way. You instantiate your class. So how do you instantiate your class? You give it a name, an object name. So you say let's say I'm giving it an object name. Okay, let's say my human. So I can say human. So now when you do it this way, you are basically instantiated your class. Do you get it? So you can go ahead to, now when I run this guy, this init function is going to automatically run. Now don't forget, for this program to run, you will need to pass in A and B. A and B needs to be in our argument because they are required. They are required arguments. So if you don't pass it, it's going to give us an error. You can try it out, but if you try it out, it's going to give you an error. So I'm just going to pass in 12 and 13. So let's go ahead and run F5. So when we go back to our program, it says I am the constructor, the sum of A and B is 25. Now what exactly am I trying to pass across in this case? I'm basically trying to say that you have a class called human, and by default, whenever you want to make use of this class, you have it this way, you call it this way. So you can pass in your arguments just like a function. Don't forget this is a constructor, and then whenever you call this class called human, the constructor always gets executed. Do you understand? Now get name is actually a method. It's actually a method. All right, so get name is actually a method. So what exactly can we do more is, okay, for example, let's just try and say I want to get my name, and I want to also save my name. All right, I want to save my name. So get name and also save. Okay, this is actually getting the name and saving the name already. So now let me just go ahead and make this a globe. Now I want to quickly say this. This name is local to this method called getName. Now in order for getName to be accessible by any other function like save name, or okay, let's make this save name, and let us make this get name, such that you have the self and then you have the name you want to get. So it's just going to fetch the name from the dictionary, and fetch name from the dictionary, and prints out the name. Alright, so we're gonna have something like get name, then the name you're trying to fetch, name. So print okay, let's just do this way. If I'm gonna explain some things right now. If name in self dot dict name dot keys print name found, else print name not in the database. Alright, so let me just quickly do something, then explain what I'm trying to do. Alright, return. So we can have this guy. so we can have it in our init function. All right, so the name, so in this case I'm going to make it self. So I'm going to make it self. I'm going to explain, just calm down. I'm going to explain, but let me just write the program first and then. All right, so save name basically asks for your name and then saves it to the it's basically asks for your name and then saves your information to the dictionary. And then gets name basically asks, it gets the, it checks if the name, or let's say confirm name. All right, so now what exactly am I trying to do here? Now what exactly is the self? Now I said self is actually referring to this class called human. So when you have self.dict name, you are basically trying to create a which is equals to this. This is actually a dictionary called dict name, but dict name is actually an attribute to the class or object called human. Do you get it? Now the reason why I have it here is that when you initialize this, so this gets automatically um, this becomes more or less like automatically initialized, so it becomes global to every other thing that needs it. So because this gets initialized, so save name can have access to this, confirm name, which is also a method, can also have access to it. And if you look at it in save name here, I did the name. Save name basically is just to ask for your name and then save your information to this database. Let's just call it our database. Do you get it? So it takes in your information here, saves it as a string, and then saves it to the database. So this um, this what I call it, um, dictionary is accessible once once you have them in your init function, and then every other thing is every other thing you have, whatever you have in your init function is always accessible by any of the methods as long as there is a self in front of them. Now C is not accessible to save name, A is not accessible to confirm name, B is not accessible to any of them because it doesn't have a self. So if I put self dot C and I say okay, let me just say def print C. So self, whenever you write a method in your program, you must always have the self in it. So you can say print self dot C, and it's going to print, okay, let me just, this is self dot C. All right, so return. All right, so now let's go ahead and test our program, then we do a final recap of everything we've just written here. So I have my human here. So when I run my human, by default is going to just run this function. So let's just try and run it and see. um, it says C is not defined. Oh, sorry, that was a mistake from my end. It's supposed to be self.c, no longer C, self.c. So when I run this guy F5, so it says I am the constructor, the sum of A and B is 25. Now we can go ahead to do some, we can go ahead to call, now we have an object called human, so we can go ahead to call save name, right? So I want to get the name, then we're now going to confirm the name. So we can have my human. So because my human has been initialized, we can now say my human dot save name. So now because save name doesn't take in any arguments, so we can just have it this way. So when I call this, it's going to ask for my name, and then it's going to save it to this dictionary here, which is what which has been initialized already here. So I can now go ahead to confirm the name. So let me just say my human dot confirm name. So let's just say my name is Bolu. So if Bolu is what I entered when it asks for my name, then it's going to tell me name found. Else it's going to tell me name is not in database. Then let me just add the last one, my human dot print c. That's one, because this one doesn't take in any argument. Save name doesn't take in any argument, it's just the self. Confirm name takes in just a single argument, which is the name, so self is not an argument. Print c doesn't take in any argument, it's just the self. So let us run this program and see what we have. So we have so it's asking what is my name. I'll say my name is Bolu. So it says name not in the database. This is self.c25. So we ought to have, our name ought to be in the database. So why isn't it in the database? So let's go ahead and find out why. Okay, so when we passed in our name, we said save name, then name, self.dit name. Okay, now this is where the error came from. So confirm name is supposed to be if name in self.name.values, not keys. So that's the reason why we add that error. So dictionaries are actually keys, the key and the value. So when it was trying to say if name in self.dict name, which is, this is the only thing that is in self.dict name. So since Bolu is not same thing as name, then definitely it's not found. So we need to check with the values instead of the keys. So let's try and run our program again. So it says so it asks what's my name. I say my name is Bolu, and it says name found. This is self.c25. So a quick recap of everything I've been talking about since morning. Alright, so we have a function called class human, and then we have def init self.a comma b, then self.dict. Now I want you guys to understand one thing. This is the constructor, and then in fact I also want to let you guys know that since we have self.dict name, we can always access self.dict name from here. So you can have something like my human self dot, okay, my human dot, is it dict name, capital dict or small letter dict? Okay, dict name. Alright, so we can actually print this out too, and it's going to print out the dictionary itself. So what exactly are we trying to say, or what exactly is object-oriented programming all about? Object-oriented programming is all about the fact that you're trying to create an object that can have so many attributes. So I have an object called human, and the attributes that this human has is the save name and the confirm name, and that's what we've just utilized here. And it also has the print c attribute. So all attributes are called methods. All the attributes of a class are called methods. So save name is a method, confirm name is a method, print c is a method. Alright, so this is the constructor. The constructor initializes, it runs by default whenever you initialize the class or the program. So this OOP idea of a thing forms the basis of a lot of programming things that we make use of today, the applications that we use today, the games that we play today, and a lot more. Alright, so in our next video, I'll be taking you guys through what we call the parents and the child, form of a class, that is super class, and then let me just call it baby class. Alright, so see you then. Stay safe. Bye.